So as I mentioned in the open, this is this one just hits a bit different than all the other amazing people we've lost for a variety of reasons. So I want to do a show and talk to you guys about it with some good friends of mine and some people that you have heard a lot on this podcast and I'm sure many other podcasts. So we brought in our good friend Mark Lewis, Mr. Bill Metoyer, and Don Jamieson, who's been on the show now 3 times, the more than any other guest part has been on. So thank you guys for doing this. So Bill, I'm going to start with you because you're one of the biggest Black Sabbath and Ozzy fans I know. When and how did you first discover and hear Sabbath?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm a kid that was born in LA in the hood, So when the first Black Sabbath, their first records came out, I was living in Los Angeles, just a few blocks away from Inglewood. All I was hearing at the time was top 40 radio, which was always like the Beatles and Motown. So at that time, the Beatles and the Jackson 5 were my favorite bands. But then when I was 12, my parents decided to get me the hell out of the hood and move to the San Fernando Valley. And then all these other kids that were around me were listening to this stuff called FM radio. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I'm around them and I started hearing stuff that I had never heard before. And the one band that just stood out was Black Sabbath. And I think the first song that I heard by them was Iron Man. So this is in 72. They had put out a couple of records by then. But I heard Iron Man. I'm like, wow, I've never heard anything like this. And then you hear War Pigs. And then fucking Paranoid. I mean, that was like speed metal when I first heard that. And that's what just got me into the band. And then, by then, what was out? Mass Reality. When I heard Sweet Leaf for the first time, first of all, I was only 12, didn't know what the fuck the song was about.
Talking about, yeah.
Yeah, but my God, I listen to that to this day. I go, I don't understand how anybody can hear that song and just not fucking fall in love with it. And, I was hooked, man. From then on, it was like Sabbath all the way. I mean, if you come into my place, it's like there's Sabbath stuff all over the place. What I put my little Ozzy over there, and there's my Buzz Lightyear holding Ozzy record. People walk in, they go, okay, there's I see who your favorite band is. So I've just been immersed ever since.
Yeah, it's I had a fairly similar story, not an FM radio story, but my one of my friends, one of my mom's friends' son, played me Deep Purple Machine Head. I'd never heard anything heavy like that before. I'm like, well, what is this? I think I was like 11 or 12 at that point. And I fell in love with him. My next door neighbor, I was talking about that. I said, well, if you like Deep Purple, you should listen to Black Sabbath. And I go, oh, okay. So I listened. I think Sabbath Bloody Sabbath was the first thing I heard, I think. And I was like, holy cow, this is like amazing. Of course, just that changed everything. So Don, you've had the pleasure of meeting Ozzy before. Am I correct?
Yeah, I've met him a couple times, never in the context of doing that metal show. Unfortunately, we had pretty much everybody else in the band on the show over the years, Geezer and of course Ronnie and Tony several times and Bill. So, but never Ozzy. But, I worked behind the scenes in production at MTV back in the late 80s and throughout the 90s. And, Ozzy would come in to do MTV stuff, whether it was Headbangers Ball or whatever. And I did get to meet him a couple of times. And I wish Jim Florentine was here to tell the story himself. I mean, he tells it a lot better than I am because he's just, it's a very creepy story and he's good at creepy stories. But probably about 97, Ozzy came in to do some press for something. And I invited him and Jim Norton to come down to the studio. I'll try to introduce you to Ozzy. And then Ozzy went into the public bathroom and they both chased him in there because they wanted to see how big his penis was. So needless to say, they were never allowed in the building again. But But Ozzy was, the couple times I met him was super nice. I have a great autographed. It's on MTV stationery and it's framed now, and it's Ozzy's autographed, and it's really pristine. And I've always held on to that, and it's incredible that he's gone now. But just two fleeting moments. And but what was funny was he had never done that metal show, and then Florentine had met him backstage at a Sabbath show several years ago, I guess during the reunion, and he's like, "How come I'm never on that show?" He goes, "I love the show. I watch it all the time." And he started talking about the different guests on there, and I guess he didn't quite know what was going on, I guess, between Sharon and Eddie at the time, but it was great that he knew of the show and knew about the show, so that was good enough for me.
Yeah, I listened to Eddie a little bit a couple days after the first time he talked about it, and he told a funny story about like Geezer and Ozzy were in a gym somewhere and on a treadmill, and one of the TVs had that metal show on, and Ozzy goes like, "Well, I'm not on that show. Everybody seems to be on that show. I want to go on that show." So Geezer told that to Eddie, and Eddie started laughing. He's like, "Well, but there's something political going on there, but still kind of a funny story." So Mark, you're the youngest guy here. What is your Sabbath introduction story?
Yeah, I kind of went backwards. Of course, Metallica was my gateway. And I also got really lucky being, I'm 42. So I was coming of age right when Sabbath hit their big second wind in the late 90s, or I guess, it was considered their reunion or final tour then. And I had, to backtrack a little bit, I got really into Metallica, from a really young age, and then of course got everything I could read about them. And then they're talking about Sabbath. And of course I knew who Ozzy was and all that stuff like that. But, it didn't grip me yet. And then I went back and listened to Sabbath, and I of course heard Paranoid for the first time, and it just blew me away. And I always felt a lot more, I don't know, I felt really hooked by Tony, especially. That guy fascinates me beyond words, being a guitar player. But I got really into Paranoid, and then I won't say I grew tired of that record. It's not blasphemy, I don't want to sound blasphemous there, but like I got Black Sabbath, and then after I got Paranoid, and then I got Master Reality, listened to that a ton, and then I got Sabotage, and it was over. Sabotage was it for me, and still is it for me.
Same here.
Besides Children of the Grave, it has my favorite Sabbath riffs. And I was just talking about Megalomania today with somebody else, actually. And, and Hole in the Sky and Symptom of the Universe, all that stuff. And it just, man, like it was just the whole perfect storm of Ozzy kind of screaming his brains out on that record. I mean, he's so extreme on that album compared to the rest of his catalog. And just Tony's thing, man, it was the whole thing for me. And then I got to see him live within 3 or 4 years after that. I think 3 times in 98, 2 or 3 times in 98. And then I ended up touring with him, when I was part of Trivium Crew, it was 20 years ago now, but it was, in Ozfest in the early 2000s. And I saw, I watched that lineup 40 times. And, just kind of going all over the place with my story, but it was just the whole perfect storm of, there's just a lot of emotion there. Like it really made me feel things the way Metallica did. And it was just like, it was just everything for me. I loved it and still love it. And, it was just, I feel very lucky to have wish I had grown up when you guys grew up, but also am happy that I came up when I did.
No, I wish I was 42 again right now. Quite honestly.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that. God.
Yeah, but Sabotage is my favorite Sabbath album as well. I mean, look, they're all incredible, especially all the early ones with Ozzy. But I love Sabotage. But I was reading Geezer Butler's book, which is an amazing book, by the way, highly recommended. And he was talking about that album, and he hates that album. He hates the record. In fact, all those guys hate that record because
crazy to me.
And the reason it's so heavy is they were so angry because they'd just been ripped off by their manager, and they were in this whole lawsuit with him, and they've been basically ripped off by everybody. So they were so angry on that record, and half of those songs were written, like was written about the manager and, you know, megalomania, all this stuff. So that's the record I think it's hard for them to go back to, because it was I saw even Ozzy quote about, you know, that time that record came out and how they were screwed over by, you know, pretty much everybody. At that point, they'd been, you know, touring for a while and selling out arenas and have gold and platinum records, and none of them had any money, like nothing.
Yeah.
Like they, you know, they had their house paid for or whatever, and a car, but that was it. So, which is a bummer, because again, it's great, but it's great because they're all so angry. I didn't get to meet. It's weird. So I know Geezer fairly well. He lives near me in Henderson. He's a nice guy. And I know Bill. Bill actually did some stuff for us. He did some video work for us in Trouble, and with Trouble the band, and some other stuff. And he was a very nice guy. I did get to meet Ozzy, I think about 4 times. And 4 or 5, I can't remember exactly, but he was a really interesting guy, because sometimes you talk to him and it was just like you'd look in his eyes and there's just nothing there. There's just nothing there. And then other times you'd talk to him and he'd be very elusive and extremely smart and sharp. It was just so weird. You never knew what you were going to get with him, but it was really interesting when he was lucid. And what really blew me away was, like, this guy's really smart. Like, he knew the industry, he knew what was going on with stuff. And, you know, obviously, you know, Sharon started the whole Ozfest thing, which was incredible. But, and I was at all those ones as well. I think that was Trivium on the one with Maiden and Sabbath. Was that one?
It was. And
That's
you
what I
probably
thought.
don't remember that. That was the first time I ever met you, but I'm sure you don't remember, because I tried to hand you a demo of my old band at the time.
No, so
I think it was probably in Phoenix or something like that.
I was there.
Yeah, it was that. And it was, man, that was like the Swedish Invasion tour. That and everybody obviously worshipped Sabbath. And Sharon was just terrifying to everybody. Nobody stepped out of line. Everybody had to behave or you were fired, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But man, Sabbath was unbelievable. Ozzy was so great.
That whole tour was amazing. Like, Maiden was phenomenal. Sabbath was great. All the other, I mean, half the other bands I was really good friends with. And the Bill was, when I look back, I think might have been Matt from Trivium that posted it. I'm like, I'm going to steal that image and talk about that, because that tour was just incredible.
Yeah, it was really insane. And it was just a good hang. Everything, like, I remember one day I was backstage eating by myself, and somebody's like, "Hey, is anybody sitting here?" And I look up, and it's Bill Ward, and he sat down next to me and ate, and we talked briefly. I didn't know what to say, but he was just so nice and just hanging out and catering, you know, and sitting next to some kid, me, you know, and sweetest guy, and he was always around. I never really got a glimpse of Tony. Geezer a little bit. Ozzy was nowhere to be found. But yeah, I mean, but you know, the whole joke about Sharon and everybody being scared of him and everything, but everybody watched Sabbath on that tour, and it was just like, and
Sabbath.
it was just amazing. I mean, everybody would go and we'd party, and you know, I mean, if we were still awake by then, and most of us were waking up at 7 or 8 in the morning to load on to that second stage, and if you were able to not drink so much that you passed out by 4 p.m., you were awake at an hour to watch Sabbath, you know.
Absolutely. So, Bill, why did this hit you so hard, and why do you think we're all kind of, everybody in our world's been hit really hard by this?
Well, I mean, Ozzy and Sabbath are the reason why I am in this industry. You know, I mean, Black Sabbath just turned me on to the heavy music, and I don't know how else to say it. That I heard that and I said, "We know, I want to be a part of this." I mean, it's like, you know, I've heard other people say that Black Sabbath gave me purpose. It's like I wanted to be a part of the music industry because of that band and because of Ozzy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us would be sitting here or in this industry if it wasn't for Ozzy and Black Sabbath starting the whole thing.
Exactly.
Same question to you, Don.
Oh, as far as the way it hit me?
Yeah. And why do you think it's hit everybody so hard?
Oh, I mean, the truth is, I think we've been waiting for this moment for about 50 years.
Well, that
who's-
sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a couple people mentioned that this wasn't surprising because we all knew Ozzy was in ill health, so we knew it was going to happen at some point. I think the timing of it was surprising, but still, even though we knew, it kind of hit us all like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, well, and by 50 years, I mean, he was the madman on and off stage, and so who thought he would live to 76 years young? But he did. But the timing is really what it's all about. I mean, the fact that it's 17 days after his final show, the thing he wanted to do more than anything, and that he's been talking about for over a year, maybe even two at this point, that he wanted that one last shot at it. And there's all this speculation. Will he be able to do it? How's it going to be? Is he going to be sitting down? Is he going and this went on for so long, and it seemed like it was never going to happen. And then it happens. And 17 days later, he's gone. And honestly, my reaction was joy, because I was so happy for Ozzy that he got to go out in the greatest way possible. It's sort of like, all right, I did it. Now, what else do I really have to live for? I've done it all now. And he hung on just to do this, just to have one more day in the sun, one more day of glory with his family and his peers and his friends and his fans, most especially. So as sad as it is, I feel so happy for him. I'm glad he got that one final day.
Yeah, and he was pretty spectacular. I was talking to one of my friends about this, and he kind of said it was similar to Lemmy, where Lemmy kind of hung on until he had his big 70th birthday party, and then he was gone. Same thing, pretty close after that. Did we all see the Back to the Beginning show? Everybody?
Oh, hell
Most
yeah.
of it, yeah.
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah, I was same here. I saw I saw the band stuff for the most part. I did fast forward past some of the fan stuff because it was like 10 hours long. I didn't realize it's going to be so long.
But Brian, let me interrupt you real quick, just
please,
because I don't want to lose the Lemmy connection. So from Ozzy's last show till his death, 17 days. From Lemmy's last show till his death, 17 days.
There you go. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I agree. I think it just you get to that point, you do your thing, and then it's just like the relief, and then everything kind of happens. You see that a lot with people as they get older, and they have one last wish to do something, whatever it is. But one thing that really struck me about Back to the Beginning, and we all know and love Ozzy, and he's the singer and this and that, and people. He's never been considered like one of the best singers ever or any of this sort of stuff. However, that being said, watching all those bands cover Sabbath stuff, it was hard to do Ozzy's parts. I noticed at least half of the bands, like the singers just couldn't even come close to making it sound decent, and some of the bigger bands that you wouldn't expect that. And when I was watching it, that's one thing that really kind of blew me away. And I realized like how unique Ozzy's voice is, and how hard it is for superstar mega acts to try to replicate doing a cover properly for him. So it was really interesting.
Oh yeah. He lived in a really interesting range. Like you listen to James try to do Hole in the Sky, and it's like,
yeah,
you realize how high Ozzy was singing on that album.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's no fault to James. I mean, dude, there's not a lot of guys that can do that. But then you hear that song and you're like, and then you go, oh wow, like there's so much of that worship in the Load era Metallica, like of that type, that blues style, like kind of stompy riff. It's like, oh, it all makes sense, and you see their worship in it too. But yeah, I mean, he had such a special thing with his voice, and it's rock and roll, man. It's that whole thing of it's not perfect, but it's exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah, and obviously with Sabbath, he was perfect for that band, 100%. The other thing with the Metallica performance was Johnny Blade. It's a typical of Metallica to pull out some bizarre, super deep cut. I didn't even recognize it at first. It took me a minute, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, they're doing Johnny Play.
Yeah.
Never Say Die. That was pretty awesome though.
Yeah,
they
and
do
getting up
great.
in that range again, like what Mark said. Even Technical Ecstasy, you know, I was at Florentine's house and he was playing me the you know, when they put out the box set, they put down the more stripped down version of the record without all the production tricks and stuff and the doubling of the vocal and all that. And his voice is I wish they would have released that album that way, because his voice is absolutely stunning and perfect on that record. And you know, from Sabotage, Technical Ecstasy, and Never Say Die, he was really singing way up there at the time. And it was flawless, just really unbelievable.
Yeah, and shout out to Rhino. Rhino does incredible box sets and reissues and stuff. The Sabbath stuff they've done for all the records are incredible. The Sabotage one, I mean, it had to take them so much time to put all that stuff together. It's really, really well done. So kudos to those guys, and I've given them lots and lots of my money for sure.
Bill has a question.
Yes.
Who do you guys think did the best on the last show as far as doing a Sabbath cover?
Oh, well, first of all, I thought Ozzy was unbelievable.
He sounded great.
I expected the worst, and I was like, I heard they were going to do. I heard anywhere from he was going to do nothing to bits and pieces to a song or two here, and he did 4 songs of each band and sounded pretty good.
He sounded amazing.
I need a minute to figure out who I think the best band was. Who wants to take a stab at it?
I thought it was Youngblood. He blew me away, dude. I couldn't.
Fucking minute. That's what I said. Mark.
Like I was like, who is this guy?
I didn't know. Yeah, I had to look him up after that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I knew who he was because my girlfriend is a big fan of his, and she texted me once a few months ago and said, "What do you think of this guy?" And I go, I heard the name, but I didn't really know much, so I went back and looked at it. I was like, okay, he's doing that sort of thing. I get it. And yeah, he was like, I mean, it's not my favorite song, not my favorite Sabbath song necessarily, but he did crush it.
Yeah.
And then, afterwards, he had that whole thing where I guess he and Ozzy had become really good friends. And, Ozzy gave him one of his crosses, which he was wearing. And then he gave Ozzy a cross that was made specifically for him. And there's a whole big thing. He also had a really, really touching tribute on his websites or social media stuff after it went down. So much so that he's playing in Dallas, Texas, where I spent a lot of time I'm at now, and at the House of Blues here. And I'm going to go to the show because I was so blown away by that performance. Like, I want to go see this guy live. But yeah, that was the most unexpected one for me, where I didn't expect that. I didn't expect him to be there at all. And then number 2, to have him come out and just crush that song was pretty insane.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah, I thought I did think if I had to, I think that my favorite band of the whole evening, aside from the Sabbath and Ozzy stuff, was Slayer, because they were just absolutely on fire, and their Sabbath cover was really interesting because they started out and then they melded into one of the Slayer songs. They finished it. I thought that was really unique, and they did such a great job. Their set to me was the best set of the whole day.
Yeah, I thought they were incredible. Yeah, it was great. There was a lot of fun stuff. I mean, Nuno was an all-star. Steven Tyler was amazing, and just wow. It was all great, man. Alice in Chains was amazing. I mean, it was all. I mean, nobody blew it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I thought everybody was really good. I mean, some better than others. I'm more of a fan of some bands better than others, but I did think. I mean, and Tyler was fantastic.
Yeah,
like absolutely amazing. The only thing about the Tyler thing that I thought was interesting was it's a Black Sabbath tribute. He didn't do a Black Sabbath song.
Yeah, I know. It was
Zeppelin, but it still was amazing.
Yeah, he was incredible. But yeah, I would have loved to hear Tyler's take on a Sabbath song. I thought Lizzie Hale really crushed it, man. The only female on the entire bill, and just destroyed. She just continues to impress the hell out of me, and just she's such a down to earth, cool, just normal person, and for her to go up, with all those big dogs, like the greatest heavy metal lineup of all time, and really stand out like she did, I was so super impressed.
I learned a lot of things on that from that show. And one of the things I learned was that Lizzie Hale spells her name Lzzy because of Ozzy. So I was like, that's really interesting. I have to admit, I don't quite get Hailstorm. Massive respect for what they do, and she's incredible. But I'm going to see Volbeat tomorrow night, and they're on that show. So I'm excited to see because I've seen them live bits and pieces on festivals and things, but I haven't really seen too much. I'm gonna try to watch some of it tomorrow, and also my friends of the Ghost Inside are opening, so it's gonna be a fun show.
But also, they don't have Val's in Western Pennsylvania where she grew up, just to be fair. So they just got them in the last few years.
Just recently. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But like I said, I think the thing I came away from most was like Don said, just being happy for Ozzy and happy that the whole thing went down so well. Yeah. And yeah, it was like this was really incredible, and how really underrated a singer Ozzy was.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, he extremely special voice, and everybody's like, it's so rare that you have somebody that's a technical powerhouse that also is. And I'm not saying that that's Ozzy. I'm saying that like you can count on one hand the real savants that are also rock and roll geniuses. Most rock and roll geniuses are pretty rough around the edges, and that's what makes them the best.
Yeah, and I love there's a video going around now of Ozzy and Paul McCartney, where I guess Ozzy was on the Howard Stern show, and so was McCartney. And Ozzy had never met Paul McCartney, and he was like desperate. That was like one of his goals to meet Paul McCartney, because he was the reason Ozzy got started was from the Beatles, and that's where Ozzy started singing and started being a band. So I thought that was interesting. And that's a really cool moment to see a guy like Ozzy be so, fanboy over Paul McCartney. But then, we're the same people because we all are in this business because of Ozzy and Black Sabbath. So it's interesting how it gets, one thing is handed down to another. And then we got to talk about the solo career too, because like I remember when Ozzy got kicked out of Sabbath, and, the last record was, aside from Never Say Die and maybe Johnny Blade, wasn't like the best Sabbath record. And, he was kicked out of the band. I heard he was living in LA and like at a hotel somewhere or something, and not doing very well from some of my friends who heard about what was going on with him. So we were all kind of waiting for like the worst, or, something really bad to happen. And then all of a sudden he gets himself together, thanks to Sharon, and found Randy Rhoads, who I had seen playing with Quiet Riot. One of my friends was taking guitar lessons from Randy Rhoads. So he said, hey, we should go see him. He's playing in this band Quiet Riot at the Starwood. I'm like, all right, sure. So we went, and there's not a whole lot of people. There's like maybe 50 people or 100 people at the Starwood on a Wednesday. So we stood right in the front of the stage, right in front of him, which is very loud, by the way. But I was like, oh my God, this guy's incredible. Like the band was not really great, but Randy Rhoads was phenomenal. So I knew who Randy Rhoads was. So when I heard that he was going to be in Ozzy's band, I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And then I remember we were all waiting for the first thing that Ozzy was going to put out. Like, what's it going to sound like, how it's going to be. And I think I can't remember if it was a single or an EP. They put something out before the actual album came out, and it was phenomenal. I was like, oh my God. And the first record came out, and everybody's like, wow. I don't think anybody expected this to be so good.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. Yeah. Sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you go first. You first.
Well, I was just going to say it was really incredible because, if you read the music magazines and everything, because that's all we had back then, we did not have the www and the .coms and all that stuff.
Nope.
Yeah, Ozzy was basically on death's doorstep. And then the first thing he puts out, kind of holds up just as good as a lot of the Sabbath stuff. And by the miracle of, between Sharon, dragging him out of the state that he was in, and Randy and everybody else, and Bob Daisley, obviously, with his songwriting and his playing, they just found the perfect combination of people and was able to get it done. But I would have never expected in a million years that it would have been that good. And then at the same time, here's Sabbath creating a masterpiece with Ronnie James Dio. So it was a crazy time.
You know, I have a story about the Heaven and Hell record. Me and my friends, my best friends that I knew since high school, all worked at this place called Music Plus. It was a chain store out here in LA. We were all Black Sabbath freaks. And when we heard that Ozzy was not in the band anymore, we're just like, oh my God, our favorite band is broken up. And then you hear that Ronnie James Dio is the singer. We said, well, you know, kind of like that long live rock and roll song. So, you know, maybe it'll be good. But because we were working at Music Plus, you would get some records before anybody else would for promos. And we got Heaven and Hell in one day. And the first thing we did was run over and we put that on the phonograph, because there was a phonograph on the stereo, because the entire warehouse just had one fucking record player. And you could put your name on a list. And when your name came up, you can pick a record and put it on the record player and play it. So as soon as that came in, my friend Jim Faraci got the a Heaven and Hell record and put it on. And all of us, there was like 4 of us best friends that were all went to high school together. And some of us had known each other since grammar school. We were waiting for this album to come out. And we put on Heaven and Hell. And I tell you, at about the 3rd song, Faraci just walks up to the record player and takes the needle and scratches the fucking record and takes it off and threw it against the fucking wall, because we all said, hey, it's not Black Sabbath if there is no Ozzy in this fucking band. So you know, that's how we felt. But then, like, later that year, Ozzy came out with Blizzard of Oz, and we're like, oh, thank God, our God has risen. And so, yeah, that's how much we were just,
Wow.
you know, it took a while, but obviously we did come around to, okay, this Dio guy is really good. But it was, to us, it was a different fucking band. It was still hard to say this is Black Sabbath without Ozzy.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's almost impossible to replace the lead singer. It's only been done successfully. You know, I can count on my hand how many times it's been done. So it's difficult. And, you know, yeah, that was, Ozzy was as much Black Sabbath as he's the voice of Black Sabbath. On the other end, was a massive fan of Rainbow. So I loved Ronnie James Dio. And I thought, well, if Ozzy's not going to be there anymore, then at least they're going to get somebody really good. So I love those 2 Sabbath records from the beginning. But I know a lot of people didn't. It was similar to when Paul Di'Anno left or was kicked out of Iron Maiden, and Bruce Dickinson came in. I remember I was working at the record store when that was happening, and half the people did not like Number of the Beast and wanted Paul Di'Anno to be back in the band. It was very controversial in the beginning. So same thing with Sabbath. I get it, you know, totally different thing. And it wasn't Ozzy, but they went back on, and thankfully, because I never got to go see them when Ozzy was in the band the first time. I wanted to go desperately, but my mom was like, "You're not going to see this band, Black Sabbath." I go, "Oh, please, please." So thankfully, they reformed, and I was able to go see them, obviously with Ozzy, quite a few times.
I'm old enough that yeah, I did see them. That's one good thing about being so fucking old, you know. I got to see Ozzy a few times. Thank God.
Yeah, I never got to go. Where did you see the shows, Bill?
Well, there was a Long Beach show, Cal Jam 2.
Yep.
I mean, you know, we fought our way to the front of the sea of people to see Black Sabbath. So yeah, I think I saw them 3 or 4 times before Ozzy was out of the band.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, you're lucky. I like I said, I wanted to go, but even when I was going to shows, I was old enough and I had a car to go. My mom would not let me go to Black Sabbath. It's the only reason you won't go to that. Like, please. Plus, I think the only other time I could have seen them was at Anaheim Stadium, and I've just never liked stadium shows. So, and Cal Jam, it was just too many people, and I really didn't want to go to that, so I missed it, unfortunately. But like I said, they did reform, thankfully, so we all got to see it again. And I thought they were awesome when they reformed.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah, Ozzy was great.
Another testament to Ozzy's vocals. Again, over the years, well, he might not be the best live singer, but obviously great frontman and all that. But as far as the unique sound of his voice and tone and all that, it's, as a non-musician, I always judge artists on, if I heard them play or sing on somebody else's music and I could recognize it right away. To me, that's what makes somebody great, right? Eddie
Sure.
Van Halen played the guitar solo on "Beat It" by Michael Jackson. If you didn't know that, and a lot of us didn't back then, because again, no social media, you knew it was Eddie, right?
Yeah.
And if Ozzy sang with a lot of people over the years, and it was an unmistakable voice. So, say what you want about it, but it was the only, that was Ozzy. It could be no other singer but Ozzy who sang like that. Even Tony, like Tony's playing, he just played on that Robbie Williams song. And the minute it came on, I said, "That's Tony Iommi." I knew it immediately, that just from the guitar.
Yeah.
So that's to me what separates the good, the really good, from the great and the legendary. It is like, it right away when you hear it.
Yeah, 100%. And a funny story about Ozzy, his solo career. So after a while, I'd seen him. Excuse me. I saw him, with I'm trying to remember what tour it was, but I think it was the last tour that they did with Zach before Zach came back. So I went. It was kind of, it was kind of weird. And Ozzy was just standing at the mic the whole night. It was kind of, I was like, kind of not so good. So the next tour, a little bit later, they had Gus G in the band. I kept hearing all these reports that it was amazing. Like, oh my God, this Ozzy tour is incredible. Like, people just buzzing about it. It was like, oh wow. So my friend Blasco was playing bass in the band, and I saw that he was playing in Tampa at the arena where the Tampa Bay Lightning played the same time I was going to be in Tampa. So I hit up Blasco. Like, it might even be the day of the show. I hate doing that sort of stuff. I'm like, dude, I hate to bother you, but could you get tickets sold out? I can't get any tickets. Can you get me a couple tickets for the show tonight? He's like, sure. So I went. I was blown away. Like, Ozzy was all over the stage, running around, like doing all, throwing water and all this other stuff everywhere, and just going crazy. And the time before that, he was just basically just standing at the mic and not really moving. So afterwards, I asked Blasco, I go, dude, like what's going on? Like, why? Like, all of a sudden, Ozzy's like back to being old, crazy Ozzy. He said, well, that last tour we did with Zach was so messed up that Ozzy had to stand at the mic because he never knew where Zach was going to go, how it was going to slow down or speed up. So he had to really listen to what Zach was playing so it didn't get all off kilter. He said, now, I mean, Gus G's an unbelievable guitar player. Like, now he doesn't have to worry about any of that. So he's back to being able to do his thing. I said, oh, that was really interesting. And again, something, when you think about Ozzy, you don't think of, this master craftsman of, performances and all these, you just think it's crazy Ozzy and he just does whatever. But no, he had to actually stand at the mic and listen to how things were going. So it basically didn't go off the rails pretty much. So I thought that was really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that.
The thing that really, I thought, set Sabbath aside from every other band that I had heard. I mean, first of all, Iommi had these incredible riffs. And then Geezer, besides being an incredible bass player, had these the words, the lyrics to these songs.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
you had Bill Ward knocking the fuck out of these drums. But the thing that set Black Sabbath apart for me was Ozzy's his vocals, and number two, his showmanship. The way he would run around and throw the water at people and bite heads off of pigeons, and he was what nailed Black Sabbath to my heart. So yeah, when he did leave, I go, oh, fuck this band, fuck this Dio guy. But yeah, Ronnie got my heart too. But yeah, it was just Ozzy being Ozzy. Besides the voice, his personality is what I thought.
And that's the other thing about his legacy too. And another reason why he's so beloved everywhere is the TV show. Like, all of a sudden, out of left field comes this TV show, and you're like, oh no, I'm not a reality TV guy at all. But the show comes out, and it's hysterical. It's like amazing, and you really see Ozzy the way he was at home. And I just thought that show was brilliant. And that brought in a whole other level of fame for him, and also brought in a ton of fans who became metal fans because they love Ozzy and his family doing the TV show. What did you guys think of the TV show?
It was. I couldn't believe it, because I mean, it was there was times that, like, Jack would have Meshuggah on, and you're like, oh my God, Meshuggah's on MTV right now or something. And I was talking about it the other day. It's like, how, we talked about this, Brian, where artists, especially that you've worked with, ones that I've worked with, Bill, Don, everybody. It's like we have the Motorheads and the Cannibal Corpse now, or these bands that cross over into being pop culture. And Ozzy, like, man, he fucking skyrocketed that shit. Nobody has ever nailed the becoming a pop culture icon, and just kind of this what would be the word for it? Like, he's almost like identityless entity of just this bigger than life thing that everybody loves. Like, when I had to buy a new fridge today, and the girl that rang me up was like, obviously not a metalhead, and she was like humming Crazy Train.
Right.
and I'm like, oh, like, okay, like, I can tell that, like, if I asked you who Slayer was, you have no idea what I was talking about. But it's just, he just crossed that line, and that TV show helped with that so much. It's like unbelievable. And obviously Sharon's a big part of that. You could make all the jokes in the world about how hard she worked him, but it's obvious that he wanted to be there too. It was crazy to me. I couldn't believe it. I mean, of course I was at the age where it was like, you're taking a little bit of the cool factor out of it for me, but I was more happy than not.
What'd you think, Don?
Well, I think, I think Mark nailed it, as far as, because we also lost Hulk Hogan this week, and
another
they
pop
both
culture icon. Yeah.
They both transcended, their genre of what they did. They're both household names. And sure, I mean, Ozzy would not have been a household name without the TV show. But I will say I was not a fan. And, being a music purist, I just, I want to remember Ozzy as Iron Man, not a man ironing.
Yeah.
Good punch.
Yeah, it does pull back the curtain, which I'm not a big fan of at all.
Yeah.
But I just thought he was so funny and endearing that I just thought that show was just hysterical. And the other thing that really, and you mentioned Hulk Hogan as well, because we're all on social media, we all see a bunch of social media stuff, and there's always things back and forth on social media about various topics and people and whatnot. The thing that really also blows me away about Ozzy, I didn't see one single negative mention about him after he passed. Everything. And it was literally my entire feed was just nothing but Ozzy stuff and how great he was. Like everybody loved that guy. Like there was not one I can't even think of anybody in the industry that didn't like Ozzy.
Yeah.
Well, Hulk Hogan, there's with a lot of people, there's some of that. That's the way society is. You can't please everybody all the time.
Correct.
But somehow Ozzy was able to just be able to do that. And, even especially in this industry, we all know everything. We all know, people and what really happens. And I mean, I never heard a bad thing ever about Ozzy or any of that stuff. All the bands he toured with, and we had a lot of our bands toured on those Ozfests. Everything was great. And you just didn't see any of that at all, which really kind of blows me away because I can't remember the last time somebody passed and it was just nothing but love.
Well, he had the advantage of good cop, bad cop with his wife there. So she took the brunt of the heat for him. But I agree. He was a lovable madman. And Eddie Trunk made a good point on the radio, which was, these major mainstream media outlets were all covered this, and they likely would not have done that had there not been the reality show. I think that's what really put him over the top with a lot of people. But I agree, Brian. I think in the sense of like we just loved Ozzy so much with all his faults and all his madness and craziness. A guy named the Prince of Darkness brought so much happiness to so many people.
Oh yeah.
He
Yeah, I
was
think
funny
that's
just being himself, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I watched every single episode, and this is hanging on my wall, you know. So yes, I love that show, man.
Yeah, another clip that I've seen a lot recently was the one where they were showing Ozzy the production for one of his solo shows, and Cher's like, we have bubbles, and Ozzy's like, bubbles? I'm the Prince of fucking Darkness. I'm not doing any bubbles. It was amazing. I don't know if they did that to get that reaction or not, but it
Yeah.
still was pretty amazing. And on it, talking about Sharon, I mean, I've had nothing but wonderful encounters with her. She's always been really nice to me and really nice to our bands, and we've never ever had one single problem with her. Thankfully, knock on wood.
Yeah.
She's somebody you don't want to make mad, but she's always been wonderful to us, and so yeah, thank her for that for sure.
Yeah, the business speaks for itself, and it's even crazier too to think about Sabbath. And I mean, I say things that, like Sabbath is there another band that has existed that's been that, well, I don't know, I personally feel that Sabbath is more influential than the Beatles. And now from that hot take, I will say, is there another band that's existed that's changed the landscape of popular music that much, that every single member has survived that amount of time and had this sort of fairy tale ending? I just don't think it's ever happened. And it's kind of unbelievable considering their lives, the style of music, and none of them got canceled. None of them died of drugs. None of them killed anybody, or didn't succeed. And like, it's so insane that it's just unbelievable. I mean, it means so much to us, obviously, but it's still kind of a thing to step back and look at what these guys accomplished and how everything changed because of them. And it's they all existed until last week.
Against all odds.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, look, they invented a genre.
Yeah, they did.
Which is not commonly done or ever done, really, if you think about it. A genre
Yeah.
of this magnitude,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why this is these. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Ozzy was one of our fathers. He
Yeah.
invented and brought this to all of us. So
Yeah.
having him gone now is just it's just weird. It's like this man who created this whole genre, who was such a incredible figure. You almost, even though you knew at some point, because he was in ill health, he was going to go on another level. He's invincible. He's not going to go.
Yeah.
He looked pretty good at that
Yeah.
that last show. I thought he was going to live for a while, man. But he just waited for that one, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
like we talked about it before. I think that was we wanted to do that. He did it. He did a great job, and that's like, okay, I've accomplished everything now, I guess. So.
But as an old man, I have to say, there'd be no Black Sabbath without the Beatles. Even that was Ozzy's favorite band. But that's just because I'm old, Mark. I understand.
No, dude, look, I mean,
You're right.
If I said that in the presence of a lot of people, they'd tell me I was crazy. But I just think in terms of the way the instruments played and the way we're still playing our instruments, the Beatles were everything in terms of song structure and you know how it is. I mean, it's we're all doing what the Beatles kind of came up with, but we're all playing it like Sabbath played it. Whether you're
I'm sorry. And to be fair, look, the Beatles begat rock music more or less, if you look at it, right? So, and metal is a part of rock music, but the largest part of the influence that created heavy metal is blues.
Yeah,
and that's really where metal came from, the blues.
Yeah.
There's some classical music in there, there's some jazz, there's some other things, but really it was the blues.
Yeah.
And Black Sabbath was a blues band before they were Black Sabbath. So that's really where metal came from, was the blues. So yeah, it's pretty insane though.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here talking, Brian, if they were still called the Polka Tulk Blues Band.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have been playing like weddings at VHW halls if they stayed with that name.
Yeah.
But the minute they changed to Black Sabbath, it was on.
100%. You're right. So somebody was mentioning that. I saw some article or somebody mentioning on social media where they said, yeah, that's where it all changed when they saw that movie and decided they were going to call their band Black Sabbath. It went from Earth, this fun blues band, to like something a little bit different, and again begat an entire style of music.
Yeah,
it still exists today. All right, guys. This has been great. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I'll give everybody one last thought, one last parting thought, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll do it clockwise from my end. We'll start with Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I said almost all I needed to say on that last one, but I mean, it's how much more of a gift can we be given, than Ozzy, and everything that came from him, whether it's Sabbath or all the brilliant guitar players he brought to us, and the brilliant songwriters and drummers and bass players, and he just knew it, and he just had what a career, man, and to surround himself with the people he did and give that to everybody, is just, I mean, dude, it's a perfect, batting 1,000 career, dude. Like, fuck yeah. Like, rest in peace. Like, oh my God, who else could ever do it better?
Bill?
Yeah, I still can't believe that he's gone. I mean, I can't tell you how long I cried when I found out that he was gone, and I just turned on Sirius and listened to Ozzy's Boneyard all day, and drank a lot of beer and vodka and cried a lot. But there's two people in this world that no one would know who Bill Metoyer is if it wasn't for Ozzy Osbourne and this other guy, Brian Slagel. So yeah, it's like, no, he was a god to me, even growing up as a Catholic and being into a band called Black Sabbath. And I look up at my wall, and Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath's poster is hanging there, and just the first time I just looked at that and said, wow, 666. I mean, yeah, changed my life, that's for sure. So thank you, Ozzy Osbourne, and thank you, Brian Slagel.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
Don?
Yeah, I think just I just moved into a new house, and so everything's just boxes piled everywhere. And after Ozzy passed, I said, all right, the first box I have to dig out from wherever it is the one that has my turntable in it. And I have my crates of vinyl like stacked on top of each other, and just went right to the vinyls. I set up my stereo, and it's been on since then. I mean, I've just only been listening to Ozzy and Black Sabbath, and we even had a little impromptu Ozzy tribute party. And my girlfriend's a big Halloween nut, so she had all these like bats and stuff, so we put them all over the house, so we almost decorated like it was Halloween, and had some friends over and just listened to Ozzy. And while I said, like, again, I was so joyous and happy for him because of the way he went out, it does feel weird that he's just not in the world anymore, because he was still making music up till the time that he died, and some very good music, by the way. So it's just it's going to be weird. Like my hero Lemmy, it's just going to be it's just going to feel just a little different. It is a little sadder that he's not with us, but as they say, and I know it's a cliche, but it's true, the music lives on forever, and so we're grateful for that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, you're right. And the first record that I listened to after hearing about it was Sabotage. I went to my favorite Sabbath record.
Amazing.
And played that, which is fitting. And yeah, for me, it's and you guys all I agree with everything you said, and it's just just thank you to him and Black Sabbath for creating a genre that gave me a life and something to do, and be able to do what I do. Would I don't know, who knows, I'd be an accountant or a poorly paid writer somewhere, some terrible newspaper. I don't know. So
wait, you signed me to your label, so there's no way you could be an accountant. You're taking a beating with me on that label.
Oh, actually, we've talked about this. Thank you to SiriusXM. I think we made all our money back now, so we're good. We're good.
All right,
We're
so
all
tell your team to stop sending me bills.
Okay. That's up to them. I don't control that part of it. But
no, it's all good. And you're right. I mean, when you really think about the big picture of it, would we have Metal Blade records? Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. I mean, the whole, like I said, they invented a whole genre. I mean, certainly there are other bands doing heavy music, but it was really Sabbath that came out and created this whole thing. And so many bands became, influenced by what they did and the sound they had, that it took on a whole life of its own. And it's amazing. Like we were talking earlier, it's like, who created an entire genre of music? Like it's, you can trace every other piece of music back to something, and certainly the Beatles, big at rock, of course, but Sabbath has done something that really no other band ever did, and Ozzy on so many different levels, not just being the singer in Black Sabbath, but everything else he's done, the solo career, just his whole thing. It just was this unbelievable life that he led. And I agree with Don. It's like I was happy that he got to that last finish line thing, but it was kind of shocking that he went so quickly. But thank you to him. Thank you so much for you guys. I really appreciate this. Hope you guys out there enjoyed this, and hopefully it's good for everybody. And may he rest in peace. And like Don said, the music's going to live on for beyond all of our lives. So it's good stuff. So thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me, man.
Yep.
Thank you guys.